Today we are ranking the 17 most popular oils in soap making on a tier list from S for super to F for fail. And in the end, we're gonna pick the 2 best ones for an S plus tier, the best of the best. And for this analysis, we're gonna use 4 key metrics. Number 1 is performance in soap. Number 2 is price. Number 3 is dreaded orange spots or rancidity. And number 4 is sustainability and other environmental concerns. By the way, if you want a balanced soap recipe that contains S tier oils, I've created a free soap PDF for a recipe that is cleansing, conditioning and creamy at the same time. It also includes an amazing essential oil blend. If you want it, comment soap and I will send to you as soon as I see your comment. Let's start with the first oil, which is perhaps one of the most popular oils in the world, and this is olive oil. Now, if you've heard of Aleppo soap, Marseille soap, Castille soap, they're all very popular soaps, and all of them, they have one thing in common. They have a very high concentration of olive oil. Now, the special thing about olive oil is that it has a very high concentration of oleic acid and a bit of linoleic acid, and those acids, when they react with sodium hydroxide, they produce sodium olate and sodium linolate. Now, sodium olate, it's a compound that is very conditioning, and it's basically what gives the soap this very nice, gentle and conditioning lather. So what's amazing about olive oil soaps is that they are suitable for all skin types, both normal skin types, but also they're extremely suitable for sensitive and dry skin types because they don't really dry out the skin, they don't bubble that much, so they're just very conditioning and gentle for your skin. Now, regarding the price, depends on which part of the world you're in. There are some areas where olive oil is actually imported from other countries and therefore is very expensive, while there are other areas where they have local production of olive oil and it's affordable, especially when you buy it in bulk. So it's a bit difficult for me to actually put a criteria here on the olive oil, because for me, I consider it affordable, especially when I buy it in bulk. So I will keep it affordable, given that I understand that there are people that live in countries where olive oil is actually way more expensive. Now, regarding dreaded orange spots, olive oil has a concentration of linoleic acid around 6 to 8%. What is linoleic acid? Linoleic acid is one of these fatty acids that is very prone to oxidation. So it's the main reason of dreaded orange spots. And this is a very typical example of dreaded orange spots. It's when your oils go rancid and they create these orange spots right here. There is nothing dangerous about dreaded orange spots. It's just that aesthetically they don't look beautiful, and they also might come with a bit of a weird rancidity scent. And linoleic acid is very prone to oxidation, so it's the main cause of DOS. And if you make sure you buy olive oil that is fresh, that is stored in a dry and cool place, then the risk of dreaded orange spots is very, very, very low. And regarding sustainability, we have established farming practices, so a sustainability ranking is also very, very good. Overall, it's one of my favorite oils. This is definitely an S tier oil. And apart from the conditioning properties, olive oil creates a very long-lasting and hard bar. Soaps that are very high in olive oil, they need a lot of curing time. So if your soap has, let's say, above 70% olive oil, you should probably cure it for more than 6 months. During this time, your soap gets very, very, very long-lasting because it gets very hard. High concentration olive oil soaps tend to be very long-lasting if you cure them correctly, and this is the case with olive oil. Let's go to the next one, and this is coconut oil. Now, coconut oil is one of my personal favorite oils, and this is because it's extremely versatile. You can use it in many different products. Let's talk a bit about the chemistry behind coconut oil. Now, coconut oil contains lauric acid and myristic acid mainly. When those react with sodium hydroxide, we get sodium laurate and sodium myristate, and those two salts are what give a lot of bubbles to your soap. So coconut oil in soap equals bubbles and cleansiness. If you want a soap that is very cleansing, that removes all the dirt, then you should use a soap with a high concentration of coconut oil. You can use anything between 10 to 30% in your soap formulation, and you can even go up to 100% if you're making a soap, for example, for the dishes, because dishes require a soap that is very cleansing, that can remove all the fat, and then you want a soap that is very, very high in coconut oil. So you can see you can create a very wide range with coconut oil, and coconut oil blends really well with other oils, as we will see later, and it goes very, very well in hand with shea butter or castor oil to create an even better lather. It also leads to a very long lasting and hard bar, and price wise it's very affordable. So overall, coconut oil is absolutely S tier. Now let's go to the next one, and the next one is shea butter. Now shea butter is very high in stearic and palmitic acid, and those acids, when they react with sodium hydroxide, they create a soap that is very creamy and has a lot of structure. So shea butter will add a lot of hardness to your soap, and it will add a lot of creaminess to your soap. It goes very well with coconut oil because coconut oil will create a lot of bubbles, and then shea butter will come in and it will make those bubbles very creamy. So the two work perfectly fine together. The good thing about shea butter is that it's very versatile. So you can make a soap that contains, for example, olive oil and shea butter. So olive oil will give conditioning properties, shea butter will give creamy properties, and the two will work very well together for a soap that is suitable for sensitive skin and dry skin. At the same time, shea butter goes very well with coconut oil if you want a really creamy, rich, cleansing lather. And at the same time, you can really increase the shea butter concentration up to 60%, for example, if you want to make a shaving soap, because shaving soap, you want a foam that is very, very creamy. And in order to have that, you want a soap with a high concentration of shea butter, because you need high concentration of stearic acid. And you can see that shea butter fits basically every type of soap. The price is reasonable, and of course it's very low in linoleic acid, so very low risk of DOS. So overall, I will give shea butter an S tier. Now let's talk about another butter that is very similar to shea butter, and that's cocoa butter. Cocoa butter is also high in stearic acid and palmitic acid, just like shea butter, and you can even substitute cocoa butter with shea butter almost in a 1-to-1 ratio. So I used to use cocoa butter in many of my products, from soap to conditioner bars to hand creams and to lip balms as well, until my supplier stopped supplying cocoa butter due to some environmental concerns. And then I had to replace all of my cocoa butter to shea butter, which worked perfectly fine. Of course, it worked for the best because shea butter is really good, there are no sustainability issues with it, and shea butter is also slightly cheaper than cocoa butter. So cocoa butter, especially right now, it's very expensive. And even though it's a great butter, it leads to a long-lasting bar and gives a lot of creaminess to the lather. I will give it a B tier because it's pricey. There are some problems with supply, at least here in Europe, and also some issues with sustainability and environmental concerns. Let's go to the next one. The next one is beef tallow, beef fat. Basically, this is very popular, especially the last 5 years. I think there have been many brands that have been making soaps or other skincare products like body butters with beef tallow. Now, beef tallow, what's very special about it is that it's high in shea butter, palmitic acid, but it's also high in oleic acid. So that's where it's different than shea butter and cocoa butter. So the fact that it has both stearic acid and oleic acid means that it's a fat that has both conditioning and creamy properties. It also leads to a very long-lasting soap, a very hard bar. So overall, it's an amazing choice. It has a very low chances of DOS because it has a very low concentration of linoleic acid. It's extremely cheap because it's considered as waste product. Because it's considered a waste product, we can also regard it as quite sustainable because it's a byproduct and nothing is wasted. Of course, I understand that some people will not want to use it because it's an animal product, and that's totally fair. We are gonna set this to an A tier. Let's go to the next one, and the next one is lard or pig fat. And lard is very similar to beef tallow with a main difference. So lard has a higher concentration of oleic acid than beef tallow and a lower concentration of stearic and palmitic acid, which means that it leads to a soap that is of more conditioning and less creamy and a slightly softer bar. So beef tallow leads to a soap that is more long-lasting and hard compared to lard, but still lard is a great ingredient. It's very cheap, it's quite sustainable also from the sense that nothing is wasted, and of course, just like before, it's an animal product, so I understand if some people do not want to use it, and because it does not lead to an as hard bar and as long lasting bar as beef tallow, I will set it to B tier. Let's go to the next one. The next one is castor oil. Now, castor oil is a very unique oil. It's very high in ricinoleic acid. It has up to 90% ricinoleic acid, and what ricinoleic does to your soap is that it leads to a very thick lather. So castor oil really boosts the lather and it leads to thickness, which means that it blends amazing with coconut oil and shea butter. So you see, coconut oil will create the bubbles, shea butter will bring the creaminess inside the bubbles, and castor oil will make those bubbles very thick and boost the lather. Now, because castor oil is very thick, we don't want to add too much. We want to keep it down to 5-6%, otherwise our soap might feel a bit sticky. Of course, castor oil is not very expensive, it's quite affordable, and when you use it in soap, you only use 5%, which means that you spend very little money on castor oil overall. Because it's a bit sticky and you cannot use it in high amounts, I was thinking, should I put it in S tier? But I think this is gonna be an A tier oil. Let's go to the next two. The next two are kind of the same ingredient. We have sunflower oil and high oleic sunflower oil. Now, sunflower oil is very similar to olive oil in terms of properties to the soap, so it will add a lot of conditioning properties, but the main difference is that it's much higher in linoleic acid than olive oil. So it has a higher concentration of linoleic acid and a lower concentration of oleic acid, while olive oil has a high concentration of oleic acid and low concentration of linoleic acid. It's very conditioning, it's very cheap, that's why a lot of people like to use it, but it leads to dreaded orange spots, especially if it's slightly old. It has a very low shelf life, so it can very easily lead to this effect here. So if you are gonna use sunflower oil, what you're gonna do is that you can use it only 5 to 10% concentration, no more than that. If you decide to replace olive oil completely with sunflower oil, you might have some issues with DOS. So just substitute maximum 5 to 10%, no more than that. And because of the very high DOS risk, I will set this to C tier. But let's go ahead to the next one, which is high oleic sunflower oil. And high oleic sunflower oil is made in such a way and processed in such a way so that you have a very high concentration of oleic acid compared to linoleic acid. It has a lower linoleic acid concentration, which means that it has a lower chance of dreaded orange spots. It has a very nice conditioning profile, just like olive oil and sunflower oil. The problem is that in most countries, it's actually the same or more expensive than olive oil. So it doesn't really add much there. So I would personally buy it if it was way cheaper than olive oil, but my supplier, it's basically the same price. It doesn't really make sense for me to buy it. So for that reason, I will set it to B tier. Let's go to the next one. The next one is Babassu oil. Babassu oil is very similar to coconut oil. So there are people who tell me, what can I use instead of coconut oil? I say Babassu oil because Babassu oil has a high concentration of lauric acid, has a low concentration of linoleic acid, so low risk of DOS, and it's not as drying as coconut oil. So there are people who use coconut oil in their soaps and if they have very sensitive skin, they might feel like coconut oil is stripping away the natural fats from their skin. Babassu oil still bubbles and it doesn't really dry out the skin that much, so it's a great alternative. However, it's way more expensive than normal coconut oil, and for that reason I will set it to B tier. Let's go to the next one. The next one is avocado oil. Avocado oil also behaves very similarly to olive oil. So it has a high concentration of oleic acid. It has a concentration of linoleic acid of around 7 to 14%, so slightly higher than olive oil. So you can say that it might have a slightly higher risk of dreaded orange spots. It also adds this very natural green color, and if you make a soap with a high concentration of avocado oil, it will be slightly greener than your normal olive oil soap. So the thing is that it's more expensive than olive oil, and it doesn't really add anything extra compared to olive oil, meaning that it does have some extra vitamins and antioxidants. But remember, soap making is happening in a very alkaline environment, meaning in a high pH. I mean, your sodium hydroxide solution has a pH of 14, which means it's very caustic, and that's why it can burn the skin. So, and the end soap has a pH of 9 to 10. Because we're working in a very alkaline environment, it means that a lot of these vitamins and antioxidants are very prone to degradation, so they cannot survive these very alkaline environments. So even though you pay more money for something that behaves almost the same as olive oil, it has some extra nutrients like vitamins and antioxidants. After saponification, you don't really get these nutrients. They're mostly degraded. And for that reason, I will go ahead and give it a B tier. Let's go ahead to the next one, sweet almond oil. Sweet almond oil has very conditioning properties, just like olive oil and avocado oil, and it has slightly higher linoleic acid concentration than avocado oil, so it's around 17 to 30%, so it's a bit more prone to rancidity and DOS than avocado oil and olive oil. At the same time, it's more expensive, so I will go ahead and give it a C tier. Rice bran oil. Now, rice bran oil is very popular in certain areas like the Philippines, for example. Rice bran oil is high in oleic and linoleic acid, so it has a concentration of linoleic acid from 15% up to 35%. The reason the range is so big is because the quality of rice bran oil changes a lot, so it's quite inconsistent batch to batch. There's a lot of variability, but despite that, it's still very conditioning, just like olive oil. It's very cheap and affordable, but because of the inconsistent quality and because of the higher risk of dreaded orange spots, I will give it a C tier. The next one is palm oil, and palm oil is quite tricky actually. Palm oil is very high in palmitic acid, and it has very low concentration of linoleic acid, so the risk of oxidation and rancidity is very low. It's a very stable oil. It creates a very stable and moisturizing lather, and it's used in many different products, not only soap but many different skincare products, so it's a very common ingredient out there. I used to use palm oil a lot, but then I switched and I removed it completely due to some environmental concerns. So palm oil is very stable, great shelf life, great lather, affordable price, low risk of DOS, comes with sustainability concerns, and therefore we're gonna go ahead and set it to B tier. The next one is canola oil. Canola oil also adds some conditioning properties to your lather. It's high in oleic and linoleic acid, but it's more like 15 to 25% linoleic acid, so it has a medium risk of dreaded orange spots. It's available everywhere, it's very cheap, but it adds nothing special compared to olive oil, and it's more prone to oxidation, so I will add it to C tier. Now let's go to the next one. This is pumpkin seed oil. Now, pumpkin seed oil adds some conditioning properties to your lather. It's really high in linoleic acid. It has 45 to 60% linoleic acid. It's quite expensive, and it doesn't add anything extra compared to other conditioning properties. This is definitely a D tier oil because It's very expensive, very prone to oxidation, and nothing special added by using it. And then the last one, grapeseed oil. Grapeseed oil has actually the highest concentration of linoleic acid from all the oils we've seen, from 69 to 78% linoleic acid. It's very expensive, it goes rancid very, very fast. It adds nothing extra compared to olive oil or other conditioning oils. Honestly, grapeseed oil, I would have it as an F tier oil. So those were the 17 most popular oils ranked. If we can choose 2 oils for an S plus tier, best of the best, that would be olive oil and coconut oil. Now, olive oil, you know, it's a very versatile oil. It's amazing. It can be used in many different products. It's low risk of oxidation, very versatile, conditioning, gentle lather. It goes very well with other oils like coconut oil, shea butter, and so on. It leads to a very long lasting and hard bar. So definitely olive oil is S+. And then coconut oil, of course, coconut oil is very versatile, has a very long shelf life, a very stable, cleansing and bubbly lather. It blends very well together with other ingredients like shea butter, castor oil and olive oil. And you know, of course, if somebody has a very sensitive skin, they have to reduce the amount of coconut oil or remove it completely, but it's still an amazing product that can be used in many different products. You can also make dish soap with coconut oil, you can make shaving soap, you can make hand soap, body soap, and so on. I hope you really enjoyed this video, and if you want to know more about soap making but also other skincare products, I have an ebook that teaches you not only how to copy recipes, but how to think as a formulator and how to design your own recipes based on your own goals. It has a lot of different recipes, from soaps, shampoo bars, conditioner bars, lip balms, deodorants, hand creams, shaving soaps, and so on. I've been receiving great feedback for it, so I would love to hear what you have to say about it. I hope you really enjoyed this video, and I'm very grateful that you stayed all the way to the end. I really appreciate that. So let me know what you think in the comments below, which oil is your favorite, and then I will see you guys next time.